Disclaimer: the contents within this video are supplemental to the safety lessons taught in class by the tech ed teacher and is not the definitive last word on the subject at hand. No person or student should attempt to follow any of the safety guidelines herein or use equipment until they have received safety training from the tech ed teacher within the shop itself and only after completing their safety demonstration and written test. Alright, welcome to the drill press safety video. The drill press uses mechanical advantage and a quill. It moves up and down by rotating these handles to give you mechanical advantage to drill easier and more accurate holes. So whenever possible, use drill bits. The first thing to talk about when it comes to safety on the drill press is yourself. Make sure your loose clothing, long hair is tied up, no jewelry. This is a rotational tool. The chuck is going to spin. If you have any of those things, it could pull you in or hurt yourself. The next thing to talk about is securing your material safely. So I've got two different samples of material here. I've got some flat bar and some round stock. And we want to make sure that we secure our material safely. We don't want the drill bit to grab it and start spinning it, turning it into a lawnmower blade and hurting ourselves. So we want to make sure that we clamp our material down to the table and do it in such a way that we're not going to get hurt. So we're going to look at using a vise first. We have two different types of vices in the shop. We have a traditional sort of drill press vise for certain jobs, but my favorite is the float lock vise here, and we're going to go through the proper use of it to safely secure your material. You can secure flat stock in the step jaws here. As you can see from the photo on the screen, material that is flat with parallel edges can sit on these steps as indicated and to hold the material off the work table, secure, parallel, and safely. The float lock vise also has V grooves. There's one in this direction and one in this direction that can be used to grab round stock to drill in either the vertical or horizontal position. As always, we want to make sure that we center punch our material so that when we do go ahead and drill our hole, the drill bit doesn't scoot around. It's the same as the hand drill. And then what I want to do is I want to load my material up in one of these holding devices in such a way that I'm not going to drill into this bar going along here. We don't want to do that. But I'm going to put it into the step jaws. This, of course, only works if the edges are parallel. If the edges are not parallel, it's not going to fit in the vise. We're going to need to clamp it down using either these clamp down straps or one of these locking vise grips in one of the table slots, which we'll look at later in the video on the other drill press. So if you've identified that you're going to be able to use the float lock vise, this is the same. Make sure you secure it safely, place it in the jaws, tighten it down, grab yourself the lead hammer and just tap on the material. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat in the jaws, and then snug it up the rest of the way. As far as positioning it, we're going to use the drill bit to help us find its center position and float it in. That's why it's called a float lock vise. So let's talk about loading a drill bit up. Once you've got the right drill bit you want, as always, make sure you use the drill bit sizing gauge to make sure that the drill bit you're using is the one you want. In this case, we're going to use 1/4 inch drill bit. I'm going to place it into the chuck. I'm going to rotate the collar in the counterclockwise direction. And as I do that, the 3 jaws inside are going to come down and grab onto the drill bit, just like the hand chuck, or the hand drill. Once it grabs the drill bit, I will grab the key, insert it into the drill press, and I will tighten this down. It's important to remember not to leave the chuck key in the chuck. Before you start the drill press, always check and make sure the drill chuck key is not in the chuck. Alright, so I've got that in place. So in order to position this, there's a number of different ways to do it. The most effective way is to bring your drill bit down, get it close. I think that's about right. And then turn it on, just bring it down, just touch the center drill, and it'll float right there. That's where I want it to be. It just drops right into place. So I'm going to continue to hold it in place, turn off the drill press. I'm not going to drill anything, I just touch the center punch, it floats into place, and then I lock it down. Now it can't move and the drill bit is in the correct spot. Okay, so again, let's look at that one more time. We get this roughly where we want it to be. So go right there, turn it on. Just put a little bit of pressure onto your material. Let the drill bring the float device into place right in the center punch. Gently return the quill back to its original position, holding pressure on your part. Wait till the drill stops, then tighten up your float log vise. It's going to give you a nicely safe pull every time. If for some reason your material sticks way out here, okay, and it extends past the table, make sure that you are standing on this side of it so that if it does somehow come loose, it swings away and into the drill press column. If we stand on this side of it, it's going to swing and hit us in the stomach. We don't want that. So always stand on the side with the handles. Make sure the material sticks out in front of you so it swings away. Material should be on the left-hand side of you if you're facing it. The other thing that's important with the drill press, maybe not so much safety-wise, but operational-wise, is making sure that you have the correct speed for the belts. Okay? So there's a chart up here that tells you what the speeds need to be. We have a 1/4-inch drill bit. The chart tells us that we need to spin it at 1,525 RPMs for mild steel. Since we're using mild steel, that's the number we'll use. We also have cast iron, aluminum, and brass, and other ones we can look at. The closest speed without going over is 1,100 RPM with the 3rd pulley. So this pulley right here, the 3rd from the bottom, is 1,100, which is the closest we can get without going over. So we're going to use that one. All right, so from the side here, let's have a look at how to change the belts to the correct speed. So what we'll do is we lift the lid and we determine which pulley we need to have, or which groove on the pulley do we need to have the belt on. So let's say that we needed to have it on the 4th from the bottom, so this one here. First thing we need to do is thumb screw right here. We loosen that thumb screw. And what that's going to allow us to do is we can then pull the motor towards us, and it makes the belt slack. We can then take the belt and we can just pop it off. And then what I like to do is hold the belt like this and just use it to position on the rear. groove, bring it to the front groove, just pop it in place. Then I'm going to push the motor forward to tighten it up. And while holding the motor forward, lock it down with the thumb screw. And then our motor is tightened up the belt, and we're good to go. Now it's the correct speed. If you don't have the correct speed, drill bits are going to get dull, then you're going to try to force the cut, and things could happen. Things get away from you, come loose on the table. We don't want that. So sharp drill bits, proper speeds are the way to go. If it's squealing, if it's getting hot, like extra hot, just stop, get some help. There's a problem. When we do drill, we want to keep our hands away from everything that's turning. Our hands are going to be up here in the handles. All right, we'll turn it on. We're going to come down. We're going to touch. We're going to start drilling. It's always good to give it a squirt of the Qualichem 250C or coolant, and just a little shot here and there. Just keep it lubricated and cool. And then we wait until it comes to a complete stop before we do anything. We do not wait for the drill bit to come to a complete stop, or we do not wait for the drill bit to clear the hole and come out of the hole, and you do something. You can hurt yourself, you can snap the drill bit off, and then that becomes sharp and jagged and can cut you and hurt you as well. So we don't want to do that. So this is our drill press that we generally leave without a vise on, and we use it for the lockdown clamp. So I'm going to go through the process of using this to lock something down as well as the straps. So we have a part like this. It has no parallel sides. Okay, this would not clamp into a vise very well. So we want to clamp it down using an alternate method. And this is going to be the way to do it. So aside from needing a center punch and positioning the drill and the center punch as accurately as you can, you need to set this guy up. So to start, there is a lever on the bottom here that loosens it. That allows you to move it around and position it, and then lock it into place where you want it. If you need to, you can move it to any one of these 4 slots. You just spin it until it comes apart.
12 seconds later.
Alright, place it in the hole you want it to, and then breathe, tighten it.
The next day.
Alright, so before I even start drilling, before I even start anything, best thing to do is to just figure out where you're going to have it. If I figure out, okay, this is where I'm going to want to drill my hole roughly, position it, get the clamp fairly close to the center hole here, and then like any vice grip, you have an adjustment knob here. We want to adjust this knob in and out until it locks in place, but we have sufficient pressure that we can click it down, lock it in place, but the part doesn't move. Alright. If you're struggling with your hand strength and you can't really do that, what you can do is get it as tight as possible, is leave this handle loose a little bit. Okay, so that's tight. Back it up a little bit. Get it as tight as you possibly can. If that was as tight as you can, then you can snug it up a little bit more with that handle, get some leverage on it. That works. But now that's secure, that's going nowhere, and you can drill that very safely. So that's how to use the vice grip drill press clamp. Now, let me remove this, and then we'll come back and look at how to use the strap clamps. Alright, so to use the strap clamp set, you're going to need a crescent wrench, also known as a nut lathe, to tighten down your straps. You're going to need a strap. You're going to need a step block. You're going to need a stud, a T-nut, and a nut. And it works pretty much no matter which size or type you use. You thread your nut, your T-nut, into the stud. It comes up through the bottom of the hole, and it's going to want to fall out of there. So we're going to drop our strap on there, we'll put the nut on loose, and now it can't go anywhere. When it comes to using a strap and a step block, it's important to note that this is the orientation that they go into. Okay? This is not correct. This is the correct orientation. They lock into place, and you can adjust the height in order to get what you need. So I'll take my strap and I'll place it over the onto the material, and then I'll take my step block and I'll come in and I'll place my step block here, position it, get it roughly where I want it to be. Now, commonly, what's the problem you'll see here is that we've run out of thread adjustment. This nut will only go so far, and then it will stop, and we won't get, we can't tighten it anymore. Okay, so the way to deal with that is just grab yourself another strap and just use that as a spacer. So I'm just going to grab the other strap. Doesn't matter if it's the same size or not. I'm just going to place it on top there, and that's going to create the space. For clarity, I think what I'll do is I'll switch the small strap for the large one here. Just so you can see better. And then when it's time to tighten it down, we'll just use our wrench and we tighten it down. There's a couple of things that we want to look at though when it comes to using a strap. So I'm just going to reposition the camera, give you a better view, and we'll talk about it. Alright, so here's a close-up on the side of the strap clamp. And there's a couple of things to note. First of all, when you look at it, you'll notice that it's angled downwards. So this is just up about one step from being level. And we want that to be, we don't want it to be sitting flat. So we don't want it to be sitting angled in a direction like that. It could work sitting flat, but we want to have a slight downward pressure onto it. And the other thing to note is the position of the bolt relative to the strap and the part. Right now, the strap is, the bolt is closer to the step block. So when you tighten this down, it's going to apply more pressure at this end of the strap than at this end, and that's not what we want. So we want to make sure that when we position our strap, we do so in such a way that our strap, the bolt is as close to the front of our strap as possible. Alright, so bolt is pulling down the front end now. It's pivoting on the step block, but it's pushing down on the front here, and that's what we want. And that's going to give us the extra pressure that we need. So we'll take our nut lathe and we'll just snug that down. And that is how to properly use a strap clamp. This is not going anywhere. And it would also be good to put one on the other side, probably on this end as well. but we need to have that kind of stuff in place. Alright, so this is the Tormach, and I included it in the drill press safety because it shares a lot of the same safety rules about rotational tools. So there's a lot of similarities. The safety rules you need to understand over here is two. The first one is, under no circumstances do you open these doors and reach into the machine without the permission of your instructor. And when it's time to start the machine and run the controls, the only person who's allowed to press the cycle start button and run the machine is the person who is operating it under the permission of the teacher.